You ever wake up thinking it's going to be just another morning and instead find 20 strangers setting up tents on your property like they own the damn place? I was halfway through my coffee when I heard the engines. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery truck for the feed store down the road, but then I caught sight of a white Sprinter van pulling past my gate, with bold green letters across the side. Inner Harvest Wellness Retreat. Behind it, another van, then a Jeep, then what looked like an old converted school bus. They all turned right up my gravel path like they had reservations. My name's Josh, and I own 120 acres of dry Texas dirt just outside San Marcos. It's not fancy, not lucrative, but it's mine. I've run cattle here since my dad passed. Fixed my own fences, keep my land clean, and don't ask much from anyone. So when these vehicles started unloading yoga mats, folding chairs, and sound system gear right in front of my barn, I figured someone was very, very lost. I threw on my boots and stepped outside. That's when I met her, a woman in her 50s with frosted hair, oversized sunglasses, and a matching lavender tracksuit was directing people like a film director on speed. She held a clipboard in one hand, a chai latte in the other, and barked instructions like she'd done this 100 times. Her voice cut through the air like a siren. "You! Speakers on the south end of the pasture." "No, the sacred pasture. Yes, where the aura feels strongest." She turned as I approached, not with concern or confusion, but with that entitled smile only certain types of people can master. "Hi, you must be the groundskeeper. Could you bring out any available extension cords? We'll need power for the crystal frequency bath." "The what?" I asked. She raised an eyebrow. "Don't worry, we won't be long. We've got the whole space rented through Sunday. You'll be compensated." "I didn't rent this place to anybody," I said. "This is my ranch." That's when her smile stiffened. "I'm sorry, there must be some misunderstanding. This land was booked for a 4-day healing experience through the Heartland Collective. I have the contract in my email." She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "I'm the owner," I repeated. "There's no Heartland anything, and nobody got permission to be here." Her eyes narrowed behind the shades. "Sir, we've paid over $3,000 for this retreat. I suggest you take it up with your management company. I'm not responsible for how your bookings are handled." "I don't have a management company," I snapped. "This is a working ranch." "Well," she huffed, "if this is how you greet guests, I'll be leaving a very detailed review." I stared at her in disbelief. Meanwhile, more people spilled out of vans. Some set up collapsible canopies. Others wandered barefoot into my pasture, like it was Coachella. One guy was already striking a gong under the old mesquite tree where my grandfather used to sit. I pulled out my phone and started filming. "Everyone here needs to leave. Now." That's when she stepped in close, too close, and looked at my camera with a tight, pitying smile. "My name is Linda Treadwell. I represent the Hill County Healing Guild, and you, sir, are being extremely uncooperative. We are here with purpose, with intention, and with the express belief in the right to access natural healing spaces." "You're trespassing," I said, lowering my voice. "You're obstructing," she replied. I called the sheriff. While I waited, Linda continued barking orders like nothing was happening. She told someone to unload the juicer truck. Someone else was stringing fairy lights between the oaks. The nerve of it made my hands shake. I kept filming, knowing damn well she'd try to twist the story later. By the time Deputy Morales arrived, they'd erected 2 dome tents and erected a painted sign that read, "Welcome to the Awakened Earth Retreat." Morales pulled me aside. "You know anything about this?" "Not a thing," I said. "They just showed up." Morales spoke with Linda for all of 2 minutes before coming back. "She says they've got a permit from the county." "For my land?" He shrugged. "Look, I'll check it out, but if they got paperwork, it'll take time to verify. Might be civil, not criminal." "They're trampling my pasture," I said. "Scared off my heifers." "I understand, Josh, but unless they break something or someone gets hurt, my hands are tied for now." Linda watched us from behind her sunglasses, sipping that damn chai like she'd just won, and that's when it clicked. She knew what she was doing. She knew I'd have to go through red tape and legal channels while she got to throw her party. her fake retreat, her stage show of healing, all built on someone else's land. She thought I'd be polite, that I'd back down. But this was my land. My grandfather died on this soil. I wasn't about to let some overbearing parasite treat it like a spa weekend. I didn't know how yet, but I was going to end this. Where are you watching from? Ever had a Karen invade your space? Hit that subscribe button, because you're going to want to see how this ends. By Friday morning, they'd built what looked like a miniature commune. There were pop-up saunas powered by propane tanks, a mobile juice bar parked crooked next to my cattle pen. They even rigged a tarp structure into a meditation cathedral, complete with incense burners and a Bluetooth speaker looping ambient whale calls. And through it all, Linda walked like a queen in exile, smiling, waving, correcting, commanding. Her followers, a mix of retirees in linen pants and younger influencers desperate for content, trailed behind like disciples. I kept my distance. I filmed everything. My cattle, meanwhile, were spooked beyond sense. The noise, the smells, the strangers, it broke their rhythm. I found one heifer tangled in a plastic banner that read, "Cleanse your ancestral wounds." Another had wandered off past the tree line and nearly got onto Route 80. One of my old bulls, Big Tex, had developed a nervous limp. Linda didn't care. I told her. I showed her. She laughed. "Oh, please, it's just a few cows. They'll survive a little energy shift." That afternoon, she had the audacity to approach my porch, shoes off, holding some kind of herbal bundle she called smoke medicine. "We're doing a grounding ceremony tonight," she said, as if she were announcing the weather. "I'd love for you to join. You might benefit from softening your aura." "I don't want my aura softened," I said flatly. "I want you off my property." Linda exhaled like I was a lost child. "You're resisting abundance. That's okay. We all process trauma differently." "You're trespassing," I reminded her, "and you're attached to scarcity." She smiled like she'd delivered a blessing and walked off barefoot into my grass. I slammed the screen door harder than I needed to. But the worst part wasn't the retreat. It was the silence from the county. Turns out Linda did have paperwork, not for my land specifically, no, but for a mobile retreat service authorized to operate in Hill County under temporary event zoning. She'd submitted documents suggesting the location was adjacent to open-use agricultural land and included a vague map that conveniently showed her dot placed just west of my parcel, as if it floated in air. The county clerk told me, "We assumed she had permission. It's not our job to verify private access." No one wanted to touch it. Civil dispute, not criminal. I could file an injunction, but it would take days. Meanwhile, Linda had 4 more events planned. One titled "The Divine Return of the Masculine," scheduled for Saturday night under a blood moon. I sat at my kitchen table, phone in one hand, violation notices in the other, because yes, now I was getting letters from them. Linda and her so-called HOA committee, which she just invented overnight and emailed to the county registrar as a spiritual stewardship group. She accused me of hostile behavior, environmental neglect, and failure to honor sacred ground access. I laughed. Then I laughed harder. Then I started shaking. That night, Michael showed up. Michael runs a salvage yard 10 miles south. Vietnam vet, wears denim like it's a religion. When he walked through my gate, he was holding a 6-pack and an old topo map of the area. "She's messing with your head," he said, dropping both onto the table. "Same type showed up on my cousin's property outside Kerrville. Called it a Moonlight Consciousness Festival. Took 3 court dates and a minor fire to get them gone." "I don't have time for court," I muttered. "She'll be done and gone before the injunction hits." Michael took a sip of beer. Then he grinned. "You ever driven a Komatsu HD 605? I looked up. "No." "Well, you're about to." The next morning, I made a call to a friend of Michael's who ran a construction company out in Hayes County. Said he owed Michael a favor from the 90s. Within an hour, we had a line on a rental. An old quarry dump truck that could hold 70 tons of gravel and move like an elephant on Red Bull. We didn't need it for gravel. We needed it for the message. That night, I paced my porch like a restless dog. My land didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt hijacked, colonized. From a distance, I saw the flicker of LED lanterns, heard the thrum of music, chanting, laughter. Someone shouted, "The Earth remembers us." Yeah, the Earth remembers. It remembers barbed wire and blood and busted knuckles. It remembers real work, real sweat, not this faux spiritual pageantry. Linda was up on a platform by then, microphone in hand, preaching about restoring cosmic boundaries to a crowd sitting cross-legged on the crushed remains of my pasture. They had no idea what kind of boundary was coming. Monday morning broke with a sky the color of bruised steel. Not rain, but the kind of overcast that holds its breath, like the land itself was waiting for something. I stood by the gate, coffee in one hand, watching the sun try and fail to break through. Then I heard it, a low, throaty rumble, deeper than any pickup or tractor I'd ever owned. The kind of sound that vibrates in your chest before it reaches your ears. Michael pulled up in his battered Ram, hauling a flatbed trailer. And there, squatting like some prehistoric beast, sat the Komatsu dump truck. All yellow steel and oversized tires, its bed empty, but its presence heavy. Michael climbed out, tossing me a hard hat and a set of keys. "She's all yours," he said, smirking. "Just don't stall her on the incline." I climbed up slowly, boots scraping the metal rungs, and settled into the cab. It smelled like diesel and old cigarettes, comforting in a weird way, like a machine that had no use for yoga or essential oils, just torque and purpose. Linda's retreat was still in full swing. The signs had changed again. Now they read things like "reclaiming the goddess within" and "no shoes, no shame, no separateness." People wandered the field in linen robes and flower crowns. A woman in a glitter cape twirled near my horse trough, scattering sage smoke. I gave them no warning. I rolled forward at a crawl, 5 miles per hour of pure inevitability. The dump truck crushed the gate Linda's people had erected out of plastic tubing and prayer flags. It rolled over a chalk mandala someone had drawn in the gravel, the colors smearing like crushed fruit. That's when the shouting started. Someone screamed, "Hey, you can't bring that here." Another voice yelled, "This is a safe space." I leaned on the horn. It wasn't a polite honk. It was a low industrial groan that said, "Move or be moved." Linda ran out from the central dome tent, her arms flapping like a frantic bird. "What do you think you're doing? You're threatening a sacred ceremony." I hit the brakes and leaned out the window. "You're trespassing on private land. This is your notice to vacate." She pointed a trembling finger. "You're insane. You'll destroy the energy grid we've activated." "You mean the one you laid across my fence line?" The truck lurched forward again, not fast but with purpose. A solar-powered amplifier crackled under my wheels. One of the folding tables folded permanently. People scattered. Some ran for their vans. Others screamed about police. One guy tried to film me on his phone, until the dump truck rolled straight over his meditation hammock, and he bolted like a scared jackrabbit. Linda stood her ground, shaking with fury. "This is illegal. You can't just destroy someone's belongings." I stopped inches from the main tent. "These aren't your belongings. This is my property, and you're leaving." At that moment, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up. Not Morales this time. Deputy Allard, young, green, and visibly overwhelmed by the scene. "What's going on here?" he called out. Linda ran to him like salvation, sobbing dramatically. "He's attacking us. He's unhinged. This is a hate crime against healers." I climbed down from the cab, keeping my movements slow. Allard looked between us. "Mr. McCrae?" "Deputy, I've got video of them trespassing. Documents from the county showing no permit for use of this parcel. Damage to livestock and fences. You want to see my list?" Linda shrieked. "He's terrorizing peaceful people." Michael stepped forward, arms crossed. "They've been squatting here for days. No right, no rental, no respect." Allard took a breath. "Okay, everyone stay calm." A second cruiser pulled in, then a third. It took 20 minutes, but finally, the spell broke. Under the growing crowd of curious locals and the flashing body cams of 3 law enforcement officers, Linda realized the show was over. She started yelling about miscommunication, about intentional alignment, about how she was a recognized energy facilitator with municipal approval. But she couldn't produce a single signed agreement. Not one. Meanwhile, I handed Deputy Allard a folder with everything: land deed, satellite images, time-stamped footage, even printed emails showing Linda's fake HOA name never existed in the county registrar's system. She was done. Police gave her 2 hours to vacate. Any property left behind would be considered abandoned. Her followers packed in a frenzy, shoving crystals and kombucha barrels into vans. Some cried, some cursed me. One lady tried to hex my mailbox with a bundle of rosemary. Linda left last, seething, swearing, promising lawsuits. "You'll regret this," she spat from the window of her camper van. "I have powerful friends." I smiled. "Then maybe they can help you pick up your tents." She peeled off, tires skidding, a line of dream catchers bouncing in her rear view. My land was quiet again, but I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. By the time the dust settled, my pasture looked like a battlefield after a hippie apocalypse. Broken folding chairs lay scattered like casualties. There were tire ruts through my field, a torn vinyl banner flapping from my barbed wire, and the unmistakable smell of burned sage soaked into the soil. Someone had left behind a fiberglass pyramid frame labeled Ascension Portal. I found it half buried near the creek bed. But the worst part, my livestock still wouldn't go near the area. The cows had relocated themselves clear across the northern ridge, and Big Tex was refusing to eat. The stress had wrecked their rhythm. I had a vet coming out Tuesday, and I didn't even want to think about the feed cost. Linda's exit might have looked like a victory, but what she left behind was more damage than 3 spring storms combined. And then came the email. From a legal firm in Austin. Subject line, intent to sue. I opened it slow, half hoping it was spam. It wasn't. Her lawyers accused me of destruction of property, emotional distress, unlawful interference with a sanctioned wellness event, and, my personal favorite, reckless operation of heavy machinery in a non-industrial zone. I laughed. Then I read it again. They were serious. The demand: $75,000 in damages and a formal public apology. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Naomi Grant, a sharp-witted local attorney who handled land disputes and wore boots to court. Her reply came 30 minutes later. "She's bluffing. Let's burn this down." We spent the next 72 hours building a wall of counter-evidence. My drone footage, the permit errors, signed statements from neighbors who witnessed Linda's group crossing my fences, spooking cattle, disrupting access roads. But then Naomi found something deeper. She created an LCL for the retreat, she told me over coffee in her office. But she listed your ranch address as the registered business location. What? She filed a temporary business listing in the county. It names your land, your actual coordinates, as her event HQ. I stared at the printout. "You're telling me she claimed legal rights to my land by putting it on a form?" "Exactly," Naomi nodded. "It's fraudulent, but it muddies the waters. She's trying to make it look like you were the aggressor." I leaned back in the chair. This wasn't a retreat. It was a setup. That night, Michael came over. We sat on the porch, both of us drinking beer, the smell of diesel still hanging faint from the dump truck parked behind my shed. "She's not trying to win a case," he said. "She's trying to break you, make you sell. You ever think about that?" "No," I said, "but it makes sense." He stared out at the pasture, quiet for a while. "When people like her lose control," he said finally, "they don't back down. They double down." He was right. Because 3 days later, a letter from the county arrived. Inspection notice. Complaints filed by the Hill County Holistic Oversight Board, which of course didn't actually exist but sounded just official enough to trigger red tape. They were requesting access to verify land use violations and unsafe environmental modifications, specifically referencing the dump truck activity. Linda had gotten to someone. I called Naomi. "They're coming for my land now." "We'll be ready," she said. So we prepared. I dug up everything: dates, photos, videos, even weather records from the day of the dump truck, proving ground conditions weren't damaged. Naomi filed a cease and desist against Linda's LLC for false registration, and we scheduled our own surveyor to meet the county inspector on site. When the officials arrived, I greeted them with a 3-ring binder thicker than a phone book. They walked the property, took notes, asked questions. The final straw came when one of them, a junior code officer named Harrison, pointed to a chalk circle still faintly visible near the barn. "And what exactly was this?" "Supposedly," I said, "that was a fertility vortex." He blinked. "I'm sorry. Ask Linda. She built it. I just cleaned up." That evening, I got the call. No violations, no further action. Naomi was right. Linda was bluffing, but she wasn't finished. The next morning, a letter was taped to my mailbox. Typed, no return address. "You've been warned. Keep pushing, and next time it won't be legal." That's when I knew. This wasn't about land. It was about control. She had staked her ego on turning my ranch into her brand's next viral backdrop. When I refused to play along, she set out to erase me. Problem was, I didn't erase easy. So I made a new plan. Not legal defense, not counterattack. Exposure. I called up an old friend from college, now a podcast host in Austin with a 6-figure listener base. I sent him everything. The footage, the letter, the retreat chaos, even the dump truck dash cam. He didn't hesitate. "This," he said, "is going viral." By Thursday night, the episode dropped. Title, "Karen on the Prairie, How One Man Dump Trucked a Wellness Scam Off His Land." My friend Rick didn't hold back. He layered the story with audio clips, video snippets from my security cams, and my first-hand interview. We kept names legal, no last names, no locations. But the picture was crystal clear. A smug retreat organizer exploiting vague permits and New Age jargon to hijack private land. A rancher who'd had enough. And a dump truck that became the internet's new spirit animal. By Friday, the podcast had over 500,000 streams. Saturday morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts, emails, voicemails from strangers across the country. Most said the same thing. "Thank you." Turns out, Linda had left a trail. She'd run similar pop-up retreats in California, Arizona, New Mexico, always claiming temporary use rights, always leaving behind trash, noise complaints, and unpaid invoices. One woman from Sedona messaged, "She lit sage in our irrigation shed and almost set the vineyard on fire." Others had tried to fight her, but none had succeeded, until now. That afternoon, a man in a pressed blazer pulled into my driveway. He introduced himself as Alex Kim from KXAT News out of Austin. His cameraman stepped out with a shoulder rig already recording. "I'll be quick," Alex said. "We're doing a segment on landowner rights and fringe retreat groups. I heard yours is colorful." He smiled. I nodded. We shot for an hour. I showed them where the tents had been, where the dump truck had rolled through, even the patch of dirt where Linda's infamous energy dome had once stood before becoming a pile of twisted aluminum. Alex wrapped the segment with a simple question. "What would you say to Linda if she were standing here right now?" I looked at the camera, thought for a second. Then I said, "You forgot one thing, Linda. Land don't bend for strangers." That line aired the next night, and the internet lost its mind. Clips of the dump truck crushing Linda's retreat played on TikTok, overlaid with dramatic opera music. One video hit 4.3 million views in a day. Memes popped up. Linda photoshopped as a war general, my dump truck labeled "Manifest Boundaries." Someone made merch. I didn't stop them. But Linda, she snapped. Monday morning, her lawyer sent one more letter. Not a lawsuit this time. A cease and desist demanding removal of defamatory content and a halt to all ongoing online slander. Naomi's reply was swift and surgical. "In the absence of a formal claim or verifiable damages, we consider this correspondence harassment. Any further contact will be met with counteraction under Texas anti-SLAPP statutes." We never heard from them again. But the final twist didn't come from lawyers. It came from the state licensing board. Turns out Linda's retreat coordinator certification, the same one she used to market herself as a licensed holistic event operator, had never actually existed. The board launched an investigation, and her LLC under audit for tax evasion. Within weeks, Linda deleted her website. Her social media accounts went dark. A few die-hard fans tried to defend her online, but they were drowned out by the thousands of comments from regular folks who'd had their own run-ins with fake authority, HOA tyrants, and spiritual scammers. Back on the ranch, life returned to normal. The cows calmed. Big tech started eating again. I repaired the pasture, replanted the trampled grass, and built a new gate. One that doesn't just keep people out, but tells a story. Welded across the top beam in plain black iron. Private land. Trespassers will be dump trucked. One day, Michael stopped by with a six-pack and a grin. Just heard from a buddy in Fredericksburg, he said. Guess who tried to rent his orchard for a pagan pumpkin harvest and got told to shove it? I raised a brow. He nodded. Yup. Her. We clinked bottles. She'll try again, I said. Maybe, he replied, but not here. Later that evening, I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the hills. No chanting, no gongs, just crickets, the creak of wood, and the low hum of wind across clean grass. Linda had come for peace. She left with a lesson. And me? I got my ranch back, one dump truck at a time.